he already knew the answer. He just had to discover it himself. So we can, and critical thinking is a skill. You have to practice and you have to teach it to your children. You can't just give them all the answers and tell them what to think. They'll never learn how to think. It is truly a skill. And so if you ask yourself, why would Chris and Katie say no comment on the anniversary and the announcement of that $50,000 reward? Well, I don't have to tell you the answer at all. You already know the answer. There's only one answer. I don't have to say a thing or voice my opinion. You can reach that conclusion on your own. It's like the one we were talking about earlier. On the morning that Sebastian disappeared, why did Chris say, don't be mad, and not say something like, have you talked to Sebastian?
Do you have him?
Do you know where he is? He's missing. Okay. What's the answer? You already know. We don't have to pretend that we don't know the answers to questions, because we can use logic. We can ask Socratic method type of questions and figure these things out.
On our
own. We
own.
may not know the details, but we can see where the problems are. That's why all of this about Seth being a suspect and things, it's nonsense. It's not if you're thinking. For people that are capable of logic, and have really investigated this case, Seth is not an issue here. Every professional that's looked at Seth they're not looking at him anymore. There's a reason they don't do the statement analysis guys and the psychologists and the criminal.
They don't bother with it.
They don't talk about Seth, and there's a reason for that, because there's nothing there. Would a guilty person that had a hand in Sebastian's disappearance be begging for FBI involvement? Would they?
Right.
I mean, you can answer that question and you know the truth, because that happened. It's my daily deception detective plug, but he did a video on Seth early on, and he came to the same conclusion we've all come to, that Seth had nothing to do with the disappearance of his child. But he's on his website, he's got a list of the 7 signs that a parent has not been involved.
Oh, let's hear them.
And so he's going through these things. And one is, do you talk about your child in the present tense when they disappear? Which of course, Seth did. Are you cooperative with people asking you and try your best to answer questions? He always was very cooperative and trying to answer. How about Chris and Katie? Are they always cooperative with those questions? Inconclusive. Has Seth always been somewhat inconclusive about what might have happened? He always kind of said he didn't know. He just said he hopes he's out there somewhere. Maybe he's kidnapped. Maybe he ran away. Maybe
he's driving to North Carolina because he thinks there might be a sighting.
Were Katie and Chris conclusive about Sebastian walking out that front door and vanishing? Right? Do they ever address the kidnapper? To be fair here, I'm not sure that any of them ever addressed the kidnapper. I cannot recall.
I don't think so.
I know that Proudfoot's.
Seth just repeats, I just want my son back home.
Okay. There's a checklist of 7. There's one that we're going to be fair to the process. I don't know if I'm ever doing it, but he might have. They ever addressed the child? I think both parties have at times in various interviews. And do they ask for help? Seth early on absolutely was asking for help. First interviews, he's got the shirt on with the face. It was a huge sign that he was an innocent person, because he's trying to be a walking billboard to get his son out. So he knew he'd be doing interviews. He doesn't have to say a word. Help me. Here's my son. Here's the number. Here's his name. He's asking for help with his clothing. He doesn't even have to say anything in those early interviews. In those early interviews, the Proudfoots, I don't know that they asked for help without being prompted every time. Was there any kind of call to action? Seth in those early interviews always very, very much calling for action. Call TBI, do this, come help, come do the searches. With Chris and Katie, those early interviews, it was really always prompted. Like an interviewer might say something like, do you have any messages you want to send to the public? It's kind of setting them up for the correct answer, not really ever doing it on their own. But anyway, it's an interesting list. Deception Detective has tons of stuff like that on his desk. And the reason I just wanted to kind of mention that tonight is just that I'm sad for Seth getting drugged through the mud over and over. There's no logical reason to place him there. He's literally in a jail for 13 hours with cameras all around him, passed 2 polygraph tests, didn't have a motive, didn't have the means, didn't have the opportunity. I mean, it's just,
And I know you could probably go on.
I mean, you could just do it all day. You could do it all day. He's holding vigils. Would you, if you were
also, they keep saying he's not searching, and we know for a fact he was searching on Sunday.
Yeah,
Sunday.
We have kind of known this. We just haven't been able to double source it. We now double source it.
Yeah.
So we know for a fact he is holding private searches. And so, and if after Saturday, I think we know why they're private.
Correct.
No, rightly so.
Why would you do private searches? Don't you trust the public?
No,
you can't.
There's
not after what happened.
So there's a reason they're keeping this private, and it's a good reason at this point. But we have been getting information that's been happening.
But we know for a fact
we have multiple people telling us, and so we know that there've been people out on the searches.
Yeah, could you look at